cities, unincorporated areas, 89 zip codes, available over the counter, newsstands, through our app in terms of being online, in churches, libraries, senior centers, and just about any place you can turn because our motto is people without a voice cannot be heard. And so we are proud to be a voice. And not only are we a voice, but we say we are particularly a voice for San Diego's African and African American communities. And so, with that, I'm happy to be in studio this evening with our managing editor, Ms. Latanya West, whose fingerprint and hand is on everything that you read because she's doing such an outstanding job. And Dr. Leonard Thompson, our partner in this, because we are light years ahead of a number of our publications, Dr. Thompson, as I'm in touch with them around the country. And I like to say that the Voice and Viewpoint, in terms of our editorial content, like this week we have an editorial, we're running a one on the president is the symptom and not the disease. And there are over 300 black media outlets that run our editorials in various papers across the country. And so we know we have major cities that follow us and 184 countries that plug into the paper. And with that being said, we're going to have open mic time here this evening. If you wish to call in, our number is 858-251-6111. Or you may go to godradio1.com, and Dr. Thompson will be able to take your questions or comments and bring you online as we do this open discussion. So, Dr. Thompson, here we are again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First of all, it's so good to be here with the both of you all. I just want to say again, kudos to the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint. Your news bites are off the chain.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm excited about that, and I'm also excited to see what it looks like to grow a legendary and a paper that has been around for quite some time, and still yet ever evolving. So I'm very excited about that, and also very excited about the multiplicity of events that we're going to start seeing in the opportunity of the calendar, and being able to share more and more about not just what's happening in our city, but what is around and affecting our city. So I'm excited to partner with you all. Every time we get together, we have a blast because we're doing it with purpose. And so tonight we're asking everybody, chime in. Let's talk. Let's have a good time because we have the lady herself, the managing editor, Miss Latanya West here. And you know it's always a good time when Miss West come in. How you doing, Miss West?
I'm doing great.
Good.
You make me feel so appreciated.
Yeah. So tell us what's going on. I want to start. I really want to get. I don't want to start off at the White House, but I do want to start off with this recent police shooting. Where they said the sniper took out the victim. I haven't heard a big uproar about it, but I watched the video, and he had a serious weapon, and I would have probably shot too, but it's always very traumatic. That we're seeing this live on camera.
I have to be honest. I guess I've been at work too much the last couple of days because I did not hear about that. So tell us more, please, for those of us.
I believe it happened not in the our community.
No.
It happened up north, and they said that they thought that person might have had special needs, but he had a weapon and he was pointing the weapon, and he had already started firing shots. And so once he pointed at the officers, the snipers took him out. The thing that was unique for me is that he was shot by snipers and not officers that were being pointed at. That was interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
that's not unusual, Dr. Thompson. That's protocol because at the point at which they probably brought SWAT in terms of it, they set up sniper locations, especially if there's a hostage situation or a weapon threat. And so the snipers will always have a better chance of taking the person out than the regular patrol people that are there. And so it's really not surprising from, but it's always a tragedy when we continue to lose life in that manner. And sometimes the situation is a matter of suicide by cop. And the person just decide that they want to die, and they're going to make the police take them out. and of course they are willing to oblige. You can hold up a pencil and get shot by them. So to have a weapon is just something else.
Another thing that I saw is this push for keeping Sunday parking free. And then, I really didn't pay a lot of attention to it. But Dr. Warren, as an economic man that you are, I started asking some questions that make you go, And I was like saying, well, if parking was free all this time and they didn't have to have parking enforcement agents or people that watch the meters, then if they start charging for parking on Sunday, then they have to bring all these people to monitor the meters. And so wouldn't it cost them more to bring people back to monitor the meters and pay overtime and to do this and to do that than they will actually make on Sunday?
Well, there are three things here. First of all the parking meters make it very clear that they're Monday through Saturday. They're not on Sunday. And so the inference is that it's free because they don't list Sunday, number one. Number two, with this new parking enforcement law they have where you have to be 20 feet from the curve, I'm the beneficiary of one of those tickets. And the ticket in itself is $65, but then there's a $12 fee attached to the $65 fine that makes it $77. And so that's where some of that money will come in terms of bringing people back. But I don't think it makes sense to try and tax people for Sunday parking. And they already want to move parking up to like $20, for a day. Just make you pay the $20 flat as opposed to running back and forth. And the guy riding around, chalking the wheels the whole time. So the whole movement is to get you to stop driving cars. And the tragedy is that public transportation has not reached the level that it should be at, as it is in other urban cities that would make non-driving attractive to people.
Yeah, and more than anything else is the fact that of how it runs. It don't run 24 hours.
Exactly.
And so you can't if you miss that last bus, you just stuck. Yeah, and I think that that's a big thing that we have to be very mindful of. If we're trying to push people to public transportation, one, there's going to have to be more places for them to get it, but also it's going to have to run consistently so people can get home. Because if you go one place and get stuck somewhere.
Well, Dr. Thompson, I can tell you from experience, is a lot better than it was 30 years ago.
Oh yeah.
Because 30 years ago, I can remember when I came here and I was working at this little convenience store, and once the last bus ran, I had to walk from Lameda Village, all the way down to Greenwood Memorial, where the property was there that I lived across the street from the cemetery. And there just wasn't transportation. And then when we got the trolley started cutting off at midnight, and people raised tremendous protests because a lot of the workers were Latino workers, and they were people from across the border, and it was a question of people getting back. And then it was down from midnight to 6 a.m., which was absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. And so San Diego still has that small town mentality that at 9 o'clock at night, in the grocery stores, they close one of the doors. I don't know what that's all about. Like a person can't just use the other door to rob the place, but they shut down. And so but it's gotten better because it used to be on a Saturday night at midnight in stores like Ralph's, before we had Food for Less, you couldn't buy a six-pack of beer because they came out and put the covers over all the alcohol at midnight because they had blue laws. And so it's coming around, but it's a slow come around.
So let's just update. What do we see as some of the major issues that are taking place in our city right now?
I'm gonna say how much time you got, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we got a lot of major issues. Your favorite one, and I'm gonna be excited when they give y'all that $53 trash fee.
I bind that into Jesus' name.
Yeah, just bind it and receive it. You're gonna get that trash fee. I've been paying for trash ever since I've been here, my business. So that's the issue for us.
ADUs.
But
ADUs.
before you go there, Dr. Warren, I just want to ask the question. I do understand that we need to keep people employed, but is it true that they could have privatized the trash pickup and we could have been paying $23 and we wouldn't have had to do any type of $2-3 million assessment to try to find out what would be the best price, and we could have been better off by going private on it?
Sure, they could have just set it at $23 a month for starters with an escalation clause and say that $4 million that they wasted giving out a contract.
That part.
Yeah. You know, I'm trying to be a part of the windfall, you know, that all these people are getting to do these assessments to give us the same response that we know we already have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, Miss West, you got a comment on all this?
I'm just listening. I'm agreeing silently.
All right, so ADU. Let's talk about ADU. Y'all been having hot stories on the ADU and all the prices. Let's talk about
It's
it.
controversial, and it's in areas where they just kind of want to dump on us and, you know, take advantage of the fact that people aren't necessarily as vocal about making sure that their neighborhoods are protected. So it's kind of like the age-old story.
Yeah. And the funny thing is the compacting of communities.
Yeah.
I literally paid homage to footnote 7 by taking a drive up to the radio towers. And I wanted just to see the view and to see history, because the radio towers always spooked me out because, you know, I saw those movies, you know, with the
Science
alien-
fiction.
Yeah. So when I was younger, I would see them. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's nice. Let's go. But I went up there and I realized that is going to be an outstanding view, and it's going to pack in so many people that the road structure cannot handle it.
Well, not only the road can't handle it, but by the time they finish doing the sardine thing, the people living there won't be able to enjoy the view.
That's
It's
right,
like making
yeah.
Rosecrans out there, the cemetery at Rosecrans, as if the people underground enjoying the view of the ocean.
Yeah.
You know, it's ridiculous. And that street is a bad street.
Yeah.
That street with the dip and the come up and the whole bit.
And if there's an emergency, I mean, my goodness.
And then I'm thinking about even the infrastructure, the sewer system, the water system, and everything else. How is that really going to tax, and are they going to really put the infrastructure to support that many households successfully?
Well, but this issue is a continuation of racism in housing that has always been with us. And the very fact that you would take this community and reduce that space to 5,000 square feet when it's 20,000 every place else, or if you just go down Euclid, right across from Food for Less, from Market Creek, you go down that street where you would go to get to Pollo Loco, and they have stuck all kinds of apartments back there, condos, and stacked the stuff up all over the place.
Yeah.
And so it's done. It's done down Euclid. I remember we were trying to get environmental impact statements, and now where you see Felix Barbecue in those apartments, if it was just those, that would be one thing. But behind that, they didn't put that whole density scenario. And so this is the same thing that happened in Chicago, happened in New Orleans, happened in New York, happened in New Jersey. These tall high rises, and we're stacking poor people in. The halls are dark and dingy, and the elevators don't work half the time. The Hilltop Terrace right there, we got cases right now with people complaining about homeless people in the hallways, drugs on the property, needles in the hall, lack of security, and the way they've written a lease, the lease leaves property management exonerated on anything and everything. And so that's why they got people in here by waiving security deposits. And by the time they signed that agreement, you got more than a waiver, because now you're stuck with all the rest of that. And I gotta blame the people some, Dr. Thompson and LaTanya, because those who have studied people realize that the poor or the marginal income people, in the most part, do not pay attention to print and laws and notices. And the system relies upon that so that when something goes down, their reaction will be to scream. And I always call it the fizzle. Like you take a Pepsi or 7 Up, put your finger in the bottle and shake it, and it fizzles until you remove your thumb. And the people who are complaining have no staying power. It's predictable how long they will stay on course. And it's not just San Diego. I saw this when I held office back east. We could have these explosive nights where people would come out and they'd be raising hell. And I could sit right there on the podium and I could almost make a wager on who was going to leave first. That one's going to scream and leave, and that one's going to scream and leave. That one, by the time we get through our, it ain't going to be with 3 or 4 people here. Then we can go on with what we're going to do. And so that's the Trump people understand that. That's a part of what's happening. And the only thing that makes a difference now is you look at these town hall meetings you see all over the country. The people in those meetings don't look like us. Okay?
Yeah.
And that's what's waking them up, because now they are the ones that are being impacted by what they thought was going to remove us and save them.
But, I think that's where local media comes into play, because we keep the issues alive. And then there's the advocates, the advocacy organizations that help to represent those people. So it's really important. We have a role to play, just to make sure that people stay aware. And hopefully with one, article or what have you, they are reminded or they get exposure to these issues, because it definitely does impact them, So we got to press the issues always.
And that's why it's so important to subscribe to the Voice and Viewpoint as well as to GOD Radio, so that you can stay aware and have another news bite and another news source. Anytime when things happen, we look and we go straight to CNN or we go to Fox News and we hear their story. I enjoy being able to pull up people like Roland Martin and other people, the San Diego Voice and Viewpoint, and us to have real dialogue outside of what I call the propaganda of what people want to see. I said this recently that I never understood, or I never thought I would see a day that they would have a fashion model beauty queen do a commercial and say, we want to thank Donald Trump for his position on immigration. Now, for those of you guys that are here illegally, we want you to voluntarily leave. But if you're not, we're going to arrest you and everything like that. And they have this person looking like a fashion model and everything else, but she's basically saying either get out or get kicked out.
Well, that's the former governor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just call her the fashion queen because,
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about Nome?
Yeah.
And the sad thing about it is that there are Haitians in our very community that said we will commit suicide versus being sent back to that travesty of the place that we're from. So there's a lot of things that are outcomes, and having little cute commercials and everything else of that nature without any type of plan other than just get out. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be consistently saying that, where's the humanity that we have to show as being in leadership? And I say that to the religious right. Where's the humanity?
And the Christianity.
Yes.
Is that Jesus-like? I don't know, Yeah. But I think you nailed it with calling it propaganda, calling it what it is, and I think it's something that people don't necessarily realize because it's so subtle and we're so used to it. And this person who occupies the White House right now has been kind of prepping people for this since, 2015? Mm-hmm. So, and in our country, we're fortunate in the way we've been able to evolve as a country. We don't think about the fact that, wow, this is actually kind of what other countries deal with here. But propaganda is not the front of our minds. Like, wow, they're actually lying to us and trying to program us somehow,
Well, what I like what you said is the person who's occupying. We're in an occupied state right now, and the person that's occupying the White House.
Oh, I try not to say the man's name if I can help it.
Yeah, because if you say it too much, they will block you. Trust me, I know.
Really?
Oh, yeah. You say it more than 4 times on this radio station, you'll start seeing the numbers go down because they have an algorithm.
What happened to freedom of speech?
Well, they went to the White House and all met and basically set the agreements in place.
The FTC and all that, right?
Oh, no.
The license?
Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk
Oh,
and all
yes.
that controls Instagram,
internet.
Facebook,
Yeah.
X, and everything else.
It's a scandal.
Yes, yes.
It's a shame.
They're letting all the secrets so that they can try to be even richer.
Yes.
But the bottom line is that eventually it's all going to backfire on them, because eventually somebody is going to get mad. And once they
we're mad. We're already.
No, I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about in that inner circle.
Oh.
And once they get mad, they're going to take their toys and go home and tell everything.
Yeah, I hope you're right about that.
Yeah.
Dr. Thompson, I hope you're right.
And I asked a question the other day. Where is the vice president? Or do we still have a vice president, or do we have?
He's on his way to Greenland. Oh, you're talking about Doge?
No. I'm like saying, is it the president in Doge now? Because the vice president, I ain't heard nothing from him.
Well, except for the controversy over the what's it called, the Signal app, that security leak.
No, they didn't have a security leak. They really meant to give that to the reporter. It was all a part of the plan.
Yeah, to
Yes,
say to
we have the strongest security ever. It's all a part of the plan, and everything, and nothing got lost, nothing got leaked.
Nothing was classified.
Yes, nothing at all. Because that's
It's
what
all
we're
the
told.
press's fault. He's just a crazy person.
Yes, and he really didn't really get anything. All he got was them saying bye to each other. So we say that in jest, but it's going to be so important that we literally start doing our own fact checking.
Exactly.
And we start aligning with getting more than just the propaganda news sources, but look at more news sources and realize that we have to be free thinking and not just being told like babies, this is what you're supposed to think.
And that's across the board.
Yeah.
That's across the board anyway, yeah? So, and just vetting your sources and really thinking about, okay, where is this coming from? What are their perspective? What did they report it on historically to know where they're coming from? Because it's humans write the news.
Yeah.
So they're going to have their biases in there, just it's natural human nature. So where are these, outlets, what's their perspective? Where are they coming from? And then, weighing the pros and cons, always.
Yeah, and that's what's really important as we move forth. The college, I want to just talk about this.
But Hamas is in control because remember, part of the problem we had was that Hamas, going back to their predecessor, and I can't think of
PLO, the
yeah,
PLO.
the PLO, that they got to be the official entity for the Palestinians. And of course, we have had a policy that we did not want to deal with terrorists because they were identified as a terrorist group. And so the Supreme Court is what they want to see happen in terms of the issue. But this is what I want people to understand. I don't want us to keep getting lost in this. There are about 140 lawsuits that have already been filed. I believe it's important, the protests that we're having, and the Democrats should speak up, and they should be vocal. I think they ought to start with this guy who's trying to become the commissioner for Social Security. After his responses, there's no way they should let him get that job. And they should keep the pressure up to get Hatchliff recalled or fired. And the people should look at each Republican congressional district, and they should organize opposition candidates now to replace those people and in some cases even institute recalls to take them out of office. That's the only way to stop this thing. Because the reason for trying to do it all in the 100 days is they knew it would be protests, but they figured they could do enough damage that we couldn't recover in terms of the judicial system being slow. Okay? And when you have the director of Homeland Security talking about he don't care what the courts think, I think that's just wonderful. I just think that they need to haul them in there and that the American people need to keep the pressure on. It was only the pressure that the New York Times brought by publishing the fact that the Secretary of Defense was about to give Elon Musk a top security briefing on China, when China is where all his money is. So I think that we have to keep the fire up. But for black folks, it's a double whammy because not only must you be a participant as a American citizen, but you've also got to keep your eye on the impact of all of this stuff on your survival, which was already marginal in the first place.
Yeah. So a lot is going on. I think that we're going to have to be very vigilant. But I want to move over to the voter. They're trying to change how we vote.
Yeah.
All votes got to be in on the day of the election. You got to show different IDs, and you got to prove that you're American and can vote and everything like that. So what we gonna do, Dr. Warren?
Well, we already know that that's not going to work because we have seniors who are the backbone of the voting population who cannot produce many instances birth certificates, who cannot get government IDs in terms of having the necessary documents handy to get it. I mean, if you 80, 90 years old, it's not likely that you still got a copy of your birth certificate someplace.
That's part of the plan, though,
Yeah,
because they know that.
That's the plan.
And what
you know.
bothers me is at least one of the mainstream media's reports on this issue. They didn't go deep enough. They stopped at 23 million, I think it is, people who are in danger of not being able to vote with this new law that may come into effect. But they didn't say why they can't necessarily produce these documents. So anybody who's just, coming into the consciousness of this issue might be thinking, well, that kind of doesn't sound right.
They already know why they can't produce them. That's why they put the requirement there.
No, I'm saying the media, the mainstream media that's not going deep enough to say why it's an issue and why we need to fight for those people to have the right to not have to produce these documents on the day of and not have more time. That's the part, because otherwise it just makes it seem like, well, for those people who don't know, they could just make it seem like, well, okay, I guess if they don't have their documents, I guess they shouldn't have to be able to vote. Because the more information you have, you can make an informed decision about whether this is a good thing or not. Because it's about not having all the information to be informed about the issue.
It would be nice to know for those who are listening what you think about this, okay? It's okay to speak up and to speak out. And everybody, can't be a passive participant because I think it was Edmund Burke that said, in order for evil to expand, all good has to do is nothing.
Okay.
And so when we are quiet, we in effect give license to what's being done, and we in effect give consent because we're not speaking out about what's being done. And I think we need to harness who we are, how we spend our money, what the rules are that are being imposed on us, and how we're going to respond to this going forward. I think this is just critical.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are listening out there, this is your time to chime in. You can call us at 858
251
251
6111.
Thank you so much. Boy, I tell you, it's been a day and everything, but I'm good. I'm with you. I thank God for the partnership that we know the number, but also for those of you guys that are on Facebook. Y'all chime on in. Don't just be sitting back and listening. And like they say in church, don't make me have to call you by name. Okay, here it goes. News is never a part of the solution, but the problem. They focus on the negativity. Now, I don't know how to take that because I give out news and I'm not always focused on the negativity. I think I focus on the situation, and I'm always open for solutions. What about you, Latanya?
I would agree with that because I definitely am about solutions-oriented journalism. It's never about just stating what's happening, but what can you do about it? You know, giving you the information to make some kind of action
Yeah.
with some resources.
And I see how people like saying, because if you look at the news, normally they give you so much bad news at the front end that you don't even want to watch the other stuff. But
But I think also too, I think we've just been so fortunate in this country, and I say this because I was an exchange student my senior year of high school, so that just opened my whole world.
First of all, where did you exchange to?
I exchanged to Greece, Athens,
Okay.
Greece. So I was there for a year, and I learned the language, speak it, read it, write it, all that. I completely immersed myself in the culture, which is what the program was meant to be for. I live with a Greek family. And
We got to ask another question. Since she was over there, what was your favorite Greek food? Since you
oh,
immersed yourself?
moussaka.
Okay. I don't
Yeah,
know
they
what that
say
is.
moussaka here, but it's moussaka.
Okay.
It's
Moussaka?
like a pie with lamb and cheese and
You killed the lamb? No. Okay, go ahead. Okay. I'm sorry. You know, I'm just interested when anybody say they're exchange student and they learn the language and you live with people and everything like that,
Yeah.
and you eat lamb. I'm like, poor little lamb. But go
I didn't
ahead.
see the lamb. I didn't see.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, so I'm always, it just completely changed my life, you know, as an African American, as an American. And there's certain things that you just from travel anywhere in our country, outside of our country. So I'm always coming from that perspective. But I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something.
Well, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to ask this question. Do you think that because of the stance that America has taken or our current administration has taken, that it is not safe to travel outside of America because Americans are seen as enemies versus as supporters?
I would say be careful, definitely, because of the way unfortunately, the people administering our country right now, you know, are just,
Occupying, yeah.
they're just not, they're not supportive of our allies. I don't know, they're playing by a different playbook that I don't understand.
But it's not new. It's old stuff, you know. That's why 50 years ago they did a movie called The Ugly American. Mm-hmm. And Americans are arrogant in their
Yes.
travel.
Yes,
They're
they are.
condescending.
Yes.
They're disrespectful. Some Americans, and most of the people like that are white Americans that treat people that way.
Yes.
Because people of color seem to have an affinity for each other, even though they might not speak the same language, they relate. And I saw that because many years I was in the travel business. And so I carried people of all races at different places, and it was always interesting to see how folks gravitated to those of us who look like them in terms of their attitudes. And I want to say something earlier. You were talking about bad news, and the caller raised the question. You know, when I first bought the Voice and Viewpoint, we decided that we weren't going to do nothing but good news. And so the paper was for sale, 25 cents a copy. So we had good news on the front page, great things happening. And every week that we came out with the next issue, the paper from the week before would still be right where it was left because the people didn't want to hear no good news. And then one day we ran a story about Granny on crack, front page. Okay. And I couldn't find a copy anywhere. Everybody bought that. Okay. And so what is news? North, east, west, and south. What people don't understand is that in a newspaper or magazine.
Hold on, Dr. Warren. You just dropped that nugget that a lot of people don't know. Again, you said, what is news?
The letters stand for north, east, west, and south.
See, a lot of people didn't even
Yeah.
think news was an acronym.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
it
that's,
is.
that's dope. See, educational moment.
Okay. And so it's an important acronym in terms of that. But the whole idea was that the copy was to dress up the ads, you see, and people are thinking
Yes.
the other way around. The paper was being printed to do the copy. And it was only in the early days when they were doing these scandalous sheets. You can remember the magazines that you see in the grocery store. You know, a woman has an alien child. Everybody buys
The Inquirer.
everybody wants to buy. You know it's a lie, but everybody, because people gravitate to bad
Sensational
news.
and sensational
Okay,
news.
and scientists have shown that if you make a bad rumor, that it will travel so many times quicker than good news because people are anxious to refer. So in this industry, the media knows that. That's why they ask stupid questions and they look at which way Trump understands this. And so he probably sets most of this stuff up as a distraction so that he can still. I mean, he just put out new crypto. And at last I checked, nobody had retired the emolument clause that talked about a president making wealth while he's in office. He's saying, "Oh well, the hell with that. We're gonna make all that we can." You know.
Billions. He stands
Yeah,
to make billions.
Yeah, the first time around, he had 500 businesses that he separated himself from.
Yeah.
This time, he ain't bothered to separate for nothing.
Well, his children were benefiting in the
Say
first
what?
term. His children were benefiting in the first term,
Yeah.
like China deals and all that kind of stuff.
And now, just let's go to the bank. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So my question is, how quickly do you think the tariffs are going to hit and affect our economy?
They're already hitting. And, that old saying about when white America catches a cold, the rest of us get pneumonia. And so we're seeing it in terms of prices are going to go up. The egg prices are going up. The chicken is going to go up because of the 80 million euthanized birds going over. People, most of the cars, they got parts. Just look at San Diego and Tijuana about how many times the parts go back and forth across the border to assemble a car. And Trump is going to require payment on each journey. Same thing for parts coming in from Canada. So the people who are in business, they're not going to absorb those costs. They're going to pass them on to the consumer. And we're going to pay more for less.
Yeah, we had said a very small avocado in the store was $2.50. I love avocado toast, and I make it quite often. And I'm really excited because I have friends with fruit trees, and so they come and they deliver avocados and lemons and orange, and I got friends with collard green trees and everything like that. What it's really telling us is that we got to go back to the olden days. I grew up, and I remember when we moved into our house, the first thing my mom said, we got to plant some trees. We had an orange tree that gave us 3 oranges this whole entire life. We had a lemon tree that was anointed. It gave lemons forever. We had a plum tree that was good, and we had an apple tree that every now and then gave us some really good apples, but not the big ones, the little small tiny ones. And we had a big garden, you know what I'm saying? And the thing about it is learning how to be more self-sufficient. And in this time, in this season, really is telling us to go back to what we know from the past and learn our history. And so that means that the Jack in the Box, McDonald's, and all those other places, we're gonna say no. We'll bring our food with us. That's why I do like my Latino brothers and sisters, because they'll get a tortilla, throw some beans in it, some chorizo and everything else, and they'll eat all day long. You'll be sitting up there hungry, and they'll pull out a piece of foil, and they got it. But back in the day, that's how we used to do.
Yeah, that's right. Especially when we couldn't stop.
Yeah, we didn't have foil. We just had the brown paper bag, the greasy bag.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I was high sedity. I had foil, Reynolds wrap.
Oh, okay.
But also, too, for those who weren't fortunate enough to have houses with gardens and backyards, there are the community gardens as well.
Yes.
Like Project New Village has a community garden, so there's that resource too.
Well, and the canning scenario is still there. I've seen in Vaughn's the bell jars and the tops, and you got gardens like in Lemon Grove. They have that big community garden. People are doing things together like that, and so there are places where there are farms where you can go and pay so much and pick a peck or bushel of what you want, be it string beans or butter beans or tomatoes or whatever, and you take those things and wash them and what they call blanching them before you put them in a jar, and you start making arrangements. So I've got some canned goods like that. They're making the preserves the same way. We made blackberry wine We picked a ton of
Blackberry
blackberries.
wine.
Yep, we picked all the berries we could
Don't
in the
that sound like
summer.
a song? Blackberry wine.
Yeah.
Now, was it strong or was it just subtle?
Oh no, the berry. I'm telling you, what you do is you got a big vase, and you drop the cheesecloth down in it so that it would be deep, and then you pour the berries in. Okay, and you could pour sugar in on it, and just put the top on it, let it ferment. Okay, and then you
You have to put no water or anything?
no, you don't have to put it. You don't have to put any water in it. You just let it ferment.
How
Put
long?
enough bird until it's all when it's all just about gone. Then you take the cloth out and you squeeze it, and then you got the wine and you put it in a jar and seal it and put it under the bed.
Okay. So and if you got thirsty at night, you just reset.
No, you didn't do it that way. You kept it for Thanksgiving and special
Oh, okay,
occasions.
okay.
You
Well,
weren't
it didn't sound like that.
under
when
the
you
bed
said-
was the cool place. That's why people
Okay.
put things under the
okay,
bed.
okay.
Because you had to have a
okay.
cool place to store these things.
Okay.
And every house didn't have a pantry. You know, if you think 100 years ago, houses didn't have closets.
Yeah.
Because people, they didn't have a whole bunch of clothes. They had 2 outfits, maybe.
Yeah.
And then everybody needs a closet. You get a house, you ain't got no closet, you got to build one.
Yeah.
If you want one in it, you know.
Blackberry wine.
Yeah.
Y'all might want to try that one day. Go and get some blackberries. He done gave you a thing. Get some blackberries. Get some cheesecloth. Put it down in a vase, not a vase, but a vase. And then you pour some sugar in it.
There you
depending
go.
on how much sweetness you want it. And then you let it until it ferment. Now, does the vase got a
You got a top on the
Okay.
on the vase. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
You get a top to it and you just let it ferment. And
Okay.
you know, of course we made homemade ice cream too, so we didn't worry about the wine.
Oh, that sounds
I
good.
still got the ice cream thing where you put the ice in. I know I got the recipe for how you fix the ice cream and pour it in a container and put the rock salt and the ice and have the electric turners down. We used to have to turn it by hand
Yep.
till it got hard. Now you got the electrical thing that turns it and it's better than Thrifty's. I'm telling you.
Well, let me ask you this question because you don't take us all the way back, and since we're going to basically be self-sufficient, and we do like our butter and bread. Now, my father had a bread maker, and what was dope about the bread maker, you just dump the package in of the ingredients and press a button, and you come back 2 hours later, it done stirred everything up,
kneaded the
kneaded
dough,
it,
yeah.
and let it rise, and then it would cook itself, and you just pop it out.
What?
Yeah, they got
Wow.
bread. Pop
And
it out.
you know what? My children gave me 20 years ago. They gave me one of those.
Uh-huh.
I never opened a box. Okay, I never got into it. I love making homemade biscuits from scratch, and I love making cornbread from scratch,
Dr.
and
Warren.
pies and cakes from scratch. I
Dr.
love to
Warren.
cook, so
Dr.
yeah,
Warren.
yeah.
I know that you can make greens.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But have you ever had his biscuits?
Have I?
No, I haven't cooked
Yeah.
any
See,
biscuits.
I
for
think that we should challenge him on that biscuit thing because we could use a good biscuit, but then my question would be, just going back to the old time about butter. Now, how do you make butter? And because they say you turn it, but what
They say you
explain that.
churn it.
Churn it.
you churn it.
Okay.
But see, I never got into making butter, just like I never cared for buttermilk. Okay, and so I skipped over that. I skipped over buttermilk, and moonshine. I didn't know how to make those, but okay, other things.
Well, one of our listeners said, "Yeah, the homemade ice cream will keep you regular." And I want to say this, and I want to say this because today I went to New Creation. They had a senior revival for the next 3 days. They had because they're trying to get the seniors to be more engaged. So they decided to have a midday revival for the next 3 days.
Okay.
It was Pastor Ringo today.
Okay.
And I was very surprised to see about 200 people that had came out for the senior revival.
Oh.
And while I was sitting there, Dr. Warren, I had an epiphany that I was at the senior revival, but I was in good company because I guess I'm now a senior. and somebody said, "You fit right in because you're a senior now."
Yes,
and I was
you
like,
are.
I said, and Dr. Ringo didn't help it anymore. He was talking all senior stuff. He talked about incontinence and product and everything else. And I'm gonna say that one of our listeners must be in that boat because she's talking about being regular, and that's some of the things that the seniors talk about that they're excited about as they get older. So thank you for that. That gave us a good laugh. But I really love the fact that I saw all these seniors out that normally won't come out at nighttime.
Yeah.
And it was
At
something
what time
that-
was it? At noon?
It was at noon, and believe it or not, at 1:30 it was over.
Is that right?
They had
they had to.
testimony service and everything.
They didn't want them to fall off to sleep in there.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And but it was good. And tomorrow's Troy Owens, and then on Friday it's going to be Pastor Garrett.
Okay.
And so
Nice.
a lot of good things are happening in the midst of the storm. And this is the thing
Right.
about it from a spiritual and Christian perspective is that even though we're in the storm, we know that we can come out of the storm. As an African American, we've been in a ton of storms. You know what I'm saying? As publishers of newspapers, y'all been in a ton of storms, but we have weathered the storm through all the different administrations, through all the discriminations, through floods, fires, thievery and everything else. We yet still stand, and I think that's the encouraging word, and that is the positive. That is the positive message that media has to say is that we yet will survive. But this is a wake-up call for people to get engaged.
And support.
Yeah.
And to support Black businesses and Black press, Really.
No, and so, but you see, the system has been designed to keep us so busy and working so many jobs that when we get a chance to rest, all we want to do is rest and get ready for the next round.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's
so
by
true.
design, as opposed to others who have more time.
Yeah.
But I think we can rearrange our time and our commitment in this age.
Yeah.
I think we have to do that.
So let's go. We got a few more minutes left. Let's talk about this editorial this week because you've been having some provocative titles in your editorial realm. So let's talk about this editorial this week.
Well, this week's editorial says, and like you said, we got to be careful about names and how they will shut us off. And so the title of it is "The President is a Symptom and Not the Disease." And I like to use the example of a person having a toothache. It aches, until you can get to the dentist, you will put Orajel on it, but you will be conscious of it. But it's not going to go away until you take action to remove the tooth. And the same thing with diseases that we have. They have to be treated. And I believe fear and racism are the two diseases that are responsible for the symptoms that we are having in terms of the manifestation of opposition to groups of people, and the whole idea that America is supposed to be lily white and there's too many people coming here, and there's a history of blocking folks from coming into the country that because they only wanted more white people to be here. And now we've reached a point where that old guard element would rather lose democracy to racism than to have democracy and turn against racism. And so the president's actions support what people really want. They want to see them plane loads of folks going to the prison. They want to see cuts to all these programs. They don't want prophylactics going to the people in Africa and treatment for AIDS over there. Let them die. We don't care about them. We can save the money, okay? And so all of these mentalities are a reversal of what we had in the 60s when the civil rights movement was born out of humanity and compassion and a moral sense of righteousness. Today, our moral compass is corrupt and gone. It's all about me, myself, and I don't want you to have, and I'm going to take what you got if I can get it. And God is out of the picture. And we know that whenever God is removed, chaos follows.
Yeah.
And so these are the things we talk about in this editorial, and we hope that people will look at it and then examine the environment in which they live and see what things they see as a result of it.
Excellent. And it's going to be not only in the Voice and Viewpoint, but over 200 other publications.
300 other media outlets around the country.
Well, all right. We done went up by 100. We used to say 200. Now we're at 300. We still growing. Ain't that good?
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Yes. So, Miss Managing Editor, what are the highlights that we should be looking for in tomorrow's edition?
Well, you'll be learning about the nationwide protest that's going to be happening April 5th, an article about that. And also, speaking of footnote 7, you mentioned that earlier this hour, we have a profile of one of the community advocates who spearheaded that movement here in Southeastern. So, yeah, that's going to be a really great read. And she was actually a guest
Yeah.
on the show. So that's
Yeah.
me. And we
Yes.
also, and it's also Women's History Month, our Women's History Month issue. So lots of great information about these wonderful, beautiful, powerful Black females who've contributed nationally, internationally, locally, and statewide.
And this is the issue that we're doing, acknowledging women.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Okay.
Women's History Month.
The
Yeah.
Women's History Month, and there are a lot of beautiful sisters in there that have done and are doing great things.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, I'm very excited about what's coming up next for both the publication. I know that when is the launch of the website?
Crossing our fingers, it'll be April 10th.
Okay.
Yeah, April 10th. So we'll be getting some information out there about that
It's
too.
not going to be on April 3rd. You know, that's a national, that's a national holiday. You know,
No.
good things were birthed on April 3rd. But good things happen in April. Yeah, there's a lot of good things happen in April. But I do want to say that very, very excited, and kudos to the newspaper for always staying on the cutting edge of what is happening. Shout out to your team. I have to talk to more people now. Dr. One, I was like, I enjoy calling the two of y'all, but now I got to talk to more people because there's more people in the office that are bossing. Giving direction now. So kudos to the team. You can't just get to Latanya and Dr. Warren anymore. They got folks doing assistant work and code this and code that. I have to look at it because anytime you see the voice and Viewpoint signature logo, you be like, okay, well, oh yeah, okay, I remember her because I'm bad with names, but I'm great with faces. But I'm excited about the growth and
Yes.
the consistently of the ability to partner. And lastly, kudos to the Voice and Viewpoint for being the platform on your YouTube channel for our homegoing service on this Friday of the Honorable Leon Williams. That is going to be the viewing at 9 o'clock, and the homegoing service will start promptly at 10 o'clock. Kudos to you all for making that available to the world. He was a man that impacted not only just San Diego, but the world. And as we lay him to rest at 102, it's very nice to know that we as a community are coming together to celebrate one of our icons.
And that there will be no commercial interruption.
No commercial interruptions.
And the producer, and you'll be producing that.
Yes.
Yes,
I
Mandate Records.
try to produce all of Voice and Viewpoint stuff. I just kind of like working with them people over there. They some good folks, and so I definitely like to.
We couldn't do it without you, Dr. Thompson.
So we have a very, very good time together, and it is. I believe that we're a model of how organizations have to work together and how we lift each other up and we celebrate one another. And the beautiful thing about it, I always like to tell people, don't think that we don't fight. We have some really, really good fights in here, but at the end of the day, we would say, so what we gonna do? and I think that that's what, when you work with people, when it's based in love and it's based in purpose, no matter if you disagree or agree, ultimately you're going to always do what's best for your community and the people that you serve. And so we are here for you. We're going to ask that you will continue to tap in, download your apps, Voice and Viewpoint, GOD Radio, pick up a paper, go online, read, find out more, and then engage yourself. If you got something to say, don't just talk about it and fuss about it. Write a letter to the editor. And let it be read and let it be posted. And you can say, look, I was published. My voice has been heard in all these different platforms and all these different areas. We're here to help not only give you information, but to engage you in the conversation. So until next week, from the desk of the editor, we got Dr. John Warren, the managing editor herself, Ms. Latanya West. Any final words?
People without a voice cannot be heard.
There you go. There you go.
With that being said, y'all have a blessed evening, and we'll see you next week.